Most people have been told their entire lives that honesty is a virtue, that openness builds trust, that transparency is strength. They were lied to, not because honesty is inherently weak, but because most people have no idea who they are being honest with. They share freely, they confess willingly, they volunteer information as if the world were a safe place filled with people who wish them well. It is not, and they do not. Niccolò Machiavelli understood something that modern culture has spent 500 years trying to bury. The person who controls what others know about them controls the game itself. Power is not just about what you do. It is about what you reveal, what you withhold, and what you allow people to believe. In this video, you are going to learn the 7 things you should never tell anyone, not because you have something to hide, but because strategic silence is one of the most powerful tools a human being can possess. These are the categories of personal information that, once shared, can be used against you, exploited, weaponized, by people who smile at you every single day. By the end of this, you will never look at conversation the same way again. Someone in your life right now knows too much about you. Think about that for a moment. They know your fears, your ambitions, your past failures, your financial situation, maybe your relationship problems, and somewhere in the back of their mind, without you ever knowing it, that information has already shifted how they treat you, how they speak to you, what they think they can get away with around you. You gave them that power, willingly, in moments of comfort, trust, or vulnerability. Machiavelli warned us, the ancient strategists warned us, and yet people keep talking, keep confessing, keep handing loaded weapons to individuals they barely understand. Today, that stops. The first thing you should never tell anyone is your goals. This sounds counterintuitive. You have been told to speak your goals into existence, to announce them publicly for accountability, to share your vision with those around you. That advice, in the wrong hands, is dangerous. Here is what actually happens when you tell people what you want. The moment someone knows your goal, they have a map of what matters to you, and anything that matters to you can be used as leverage. Consciously or unconsciously, people begin to position themselves between you and your objective. Not always out of malice, sometimes simply because human beings are competitive creatures who feel threatened by someone else ascending. There is also the psychological phenomenon known as social reality substitution. When you verbalize a goal publicly and receive praise or acknowledgement for it, your brain registers a small dopamine reward. That reward mimics the feeling of having already achieved the thing. The result? Your urgency fades, your drive weakens. You talked about it, and some part of your nervous system decided that was enough. The strategist keeps ambitions private until execution makes them undeniable. Your results should be the announcement, not your intentions. Consider what it means to tell a coworker you are applying for a promotion. Before you have even prepared your case, they have had time to prepare their own, to subtly undermine your reputation, to position themselves as the more stable, more loyal option. You handed them a strategic advantage and called it vulnerability. Machiavelli wrote that men are so simple and so ready to obey present necessities that one who deceives will always find those who allow themselves to be deceived. He was not endorsing deception as a lifestyle. He was identifying a structural truth about how information creates power dynamics. Keep your goals close. Let your actions speak when the time is right. And if you think that is the most important thing on this list, wait until you hear number 3. The second thing you should never disclose is your financial situation. Not your salary, not your savings, not your debt, not your losses, not your windfalls. Money is not just a resource, it is a signal, and every signal you broadcast changes how people relate to you in ways you will never fully see. Tell someone you are doing well financially, and several things happen at once. Some people will expect more from you, more generosity, more picking up the tab, more lending without being asked. Others will quietly resent you, even if they claim to be happy for you. And certain individuals will begin calculating how they can benefit from your position before you even notice they have shifted. Tell someone you are struggling financially, and a different set of dynamics begins. Respect erodes in ways that are never acknowledged aloud. People begin treating your judgment as suspect. Opportunities that might have been offered to you quietly disappear. And predatory types, the ones who prey on desperation, will appear with offers that cost far more than they seem. Neither direction serves you. The person who controls information about their financial state controls how they are treated in negotiation, in friendship, in business, and in love. There is a reason that serious wealth and serious poverty both create isolation, because money information fundamentally alters the terms of every relationship it touches. A concrete example: imagine two candidates negotiating a job offer. One has already mentioned in casual conversation that they are behind on rent. The other has revealed nothing. The hiring manager will negotiate very differently with each of them. One has already shown their flaw, the other has not. The one with no information has all the power in that room. Financial information is leverage. Protect it accordingly. But income is just the surface. The next secret cuts even deeper, because it touches something people never expect to be used against them. The third thing you should never reveal is your psychological architecture, your fears, your insecurities, your wounds. This is the most dangerous disclosure of all. Modern culture has built an entire mythology around vulnerability. Share your pain, open up, let people in. The theory is that authentic connection requires exposure of your deepest fears and failures, and that is partially true. In genuinely safe, deeply trusted relationships, vulnerability is the foundation of real intimacy. But most of your relationships are not that. Most of the people around you are colleagues, acquaintances, social contacts, and family members operating with their own agendas, their own wounds, and their own survival mechanisms. Handing these individuals a precise map of where you are most fragile is not vulnerability, it is exposure. Once someone knows what you fear, they know how to control your behavior without you realizing it. If you have told someone you are terrified of public embarrassment, do not be surprised when they use that fear to keep you compliant. If you have shared that you are deeply insecure about your intelligence, watch how quickly that insecurity becomes a manipulation lever when the relationship turns adversarial. The psychology here is well documented. People who learn your insecurities will, under stress, reach for them, not always consciously, sometimes as a reflex. The remark that seems offhand, the joke that lands a little too close, the observation that stings in a way no outsider would understand. These are not accidents. They are the natural consequence of having given someone access to your interior architecture. Machiavelli understood that a prince must appear in such a way that seeing and hearing him should inspire admiration. Admiration is incompatible with pity. And pity is exactly what excessive self-disclosure generates. There is a version of you that the world sees. Make sure it is a version you designed. 3 down. And number 4 is the one most people violate every single day, especially online, especially in the digital age. The 4th thing you should never disclose is who you dislike, who has wronged you, or who you are in conflict with. This seems harmless. In fact, it feels therapeutic. Venting feels like release. Telling someone about the person who treated you unfairly feels like justice, or at least relief. But here is what you are actually doing when you share your resentments openly. First, you are providing social ammunition to whoever is listening. Now they know exactly how to destabilize you. Mention the name of the person you cannot stand and watch your emotional state shift. That is a control mechanism, a button. You just handed it to someone else. Second, you are generating a narrative about yourself that may not serve you. People who hear you speak bitterly about others will privately wonder what you say about them behind closed doors. Word travels. Reputations are built not just on what you do, but on what you are heard saying. The person who vents openly is the person no one trusts with sensitive information. Third, and most critically, when you announce your enemies, you invite those enemies to learn that you have named them. Social networks are smaller than they appear. The colleague you complained about to your friend may know your friend professionally. The family member you vented about on a group call has allies in that same group. The world is a web, and the moment you identify an opponent out loud, you have potentially notified them and lost the element of strategic surprise. The most dangerous adversary is the one who acts without announcing their intentions. Mirror that discipline. Internalize your grievances. Process them in private. Respond with action, not with words. Let your composure be the most unsettling thing about you. We are halfway through, and the next one is the secret that destroys more lives than almost any other, because it strikes at the heart of something everyone wants to believe about themselves. The 5th thing you should never reveal is what you are planning to do next. Not in business, not in your personal life, not in a negotiation, not in a conflict, Predictability is a liability. When people know what you are going to do before you do it, they can prepare for it, circumvent it, or co-opt it. The element of surprise is not a luxury in strategic life, it is a core mechanism of power. Think about what happens when you announce a major life decision before it is finalized. You are relocating, you are leaving a relationship, you are starting a business, you are making a large investment. The moment that information enters the social ecosystem, forces organize around it. Some will try to talk you out of it, not because they know better, but because your movement threatens the equilibrium of the social structure you currently occupy. Others will try to insert themselves into your plan in ways that compromise your autonomy. Others will simply use your anticipated move to position themselves advantageously before you have taken a single step. There is a reason chess grandmasters do not announce their strategy before a match. There is a reason the most successful business leaders are characterized by the press as unpredictable. Unpredictability is not chaos. It is strategic ambiguity. It is the deliberate refusal to let opponents or observers anticipate your behavior. The strategist who shaped much of this thinking had a principle that cuts through the noise. Court attention at all costs, but never let anyone know exactly where you are going. The mystery around your intentions is itself a form of power. Execute silently. Announce the result, never the plan. 2 left. And number 6 is something almost everyone believes they should do because they were taught it is the right thing. They are wrong. The 6th thing you should never share is the intimate details of your personal relationships, not the state of your romantic life, not the dynamics of your marriage, not the tensions in your family, not the private struggles of your closest relationships. Here is why this matters far more than most people realize. Relationships are living systems. They shift, they heal, they recover. People who were in conflict find their way back to each other. Couples who seemed incompatible discover new understanding. Parents and children reconcile. The arc of any real relationship is long, complex, and frequently non-linear. But the impressions you leave in the minds of your social network are not living systems. They are static, fixed at the moment of transmission. When you tell your friends that your partner betrayed your trust during a crisis, that information calcifies in their minds, even if you and your partner later rebuild something stronger than ever. The people you told never fully update their image. They are still holding the version of events you gave them when you were in pain. The result? You have poisoned relationships on behalf of a crisis that resolved itself. Your friends now carry a distorted version of your partner, your family member, or your colleague, and those distortions will subtly influence every interaction they have with those individuals from that point forward. Even worse, the person you confided in now holds intimate knowledge about your relationship as a form of quiet power over you. If the relationship between you and that confidant ever sours, they hold your disclosures as potential leverage. Handle your relationships internally. Seek professional support when necessary, meaning a therapist or counselor bound by confidentiality. Be extremely selective about who you allow insight into your personal life. Privacy is not secrecy, it is sovereignty. 1 left, and this final one is the most ancient of all. Machiavelli did not invent it. He simply understood it better than anyone else alive in his time, and almost no one today actually practices it. The 7th and final thing you should never carelessly reveal is your deepest beliefs, your ideological convictions, and your moral code. This is the most subtle and the most explosive of all 7. In a polarized age, in a world where every opinion is a social signal and every position is a tribal identifier, broadcasting your beliefs indiscriminately is one of the fastest ways to reduce your own influence and create enemies you never intended to make. Your beliefs are the engine of your actions, but they are not required to be the banner above your gate. Machiavelli was perhaps the most radical thinker in this regard. He observed that a prince must be a great feigner and dissembler. He must never let what comes out of his mouth contradict what must be done. He was not advocating for hypocrisy. He was identifying the gap between interior conviction and public performance as a strategic tool. The person who announces their beliefs loudly and constantly has already defined their ceiling. Everyone knows exactly what moves they will make, what causes they will support, what lines they will not cross. They are entirely predictable and entirely manageable. The person who holds their convictions privately, who acts from principle without narrating the principle, who does not require external validation for their internal compass, that person is genuinely dangerous. Not because they are deceptive, but because their motivations remain opaque. Their behavior cannot be easily gamed. Their loyalty cannot be assumed or purchased based on a social identity. This does not mean abandoning your values. It means understanding the difference between living your values and performing them. The performance is for others. The practice is for you. In every social environment, the individual who has not fully disclosed their worldview retains the most degrees of freedom. They can form alliances across boundaries. They can operate in spaces that ideologically rigid individuals are barred from. They can move quietly and strike precisely because no one has been given a preview of their intentions. Say less, mean more. Let your character emerge through pattern, not proclamation. Take a moment and sit with what you just absorbed. 7 categories, 7 types of disclosure that most people engage in every single week, often every single day, without thinking, without calculation, without any awareness of how the information flows, who it reaches, and what it enables. Think about the conversations you had last week, the things you mentioned casually over dinner, the complaints you voiced in passing, the plans you shared with someone who asked, the fear you admitted when you were tired and a little less guarded than usual. How much of that was strategic? How much of that was simply reflex? The uncomfortable truth that Machiavellian philosophy forces us to confront is this: most human interaction is not safe. Most social environments are not neutral. Most conversations, even between friends, involve some degree of social positioning, status signaling, and information exchange that influences future behavior. That is not cynicism. That is observation. Cynicism says people are malicious. Realism says people are complex, self-interested, and operating from frameworks that rarely have your best interests at the center. Those two things are very different. The person who understands this is not paranoid. They are prepared. They move through the world with a level of clarity and control that the overly trusting, chronically disclosing individual will never experience. There is a particular kind of power in being known without being understood, in being present without being fully readable, in allowing people close enough to trust you while maintaining the interior architecture that is entirely your own. That is not coldness, that is mastery. Most people are going to watch this video and feel something, a recognition, a slight unease, maybe a sharpening behind the eyes as they recall specific conversations where they gave too much away. And then they are going to keep doing exactly what they have always done. Because changing the way you communicate is harder than understanding why you should. Because silence feels uncomfortable when everyone around you is confessing. Because the social reward for oversharing is immediate, even if the cost comes later. But there is a smaller group, the ones who do not just watch content like this for entertainment. The ones who take it as instruction. The ones who are genuinely interested in moving through the world with more precision, more strategic awareness, and more control over how they are perceived and what power others can hold over them. If you are in that group, you already know what to do. Subscribe if this level of thinking is what you are here for, not for motivation, not for comfort, for the kind of clarity that changes how you operate. And if you are ready to go deeper, there is more waiting for you on this channel. Watch the next video, or do not. But understand, the people who stay ahead are the ones who never stop studying. Here is the last thing Machiavelli would want you to carry with you. The world is not populated by enemies. It is populated by individuals navigating their own survival, their own ambitions, and their own fears. Most of them are not plotting against you, but most of them are also not primarily concerned with your well-being. They are concerned with their own, understanding that is not a tragedy. It is a gift. Because once you stop expecting the world to operate as a safe container for your honesty, you stop being disappointed when it does not. You stop giving leverage to people who never asked for your best interests. You start moving with intention instead of impulse, with strategy instead of sentiment. Silence is not a wall, it is a foundation. The things you never say will protect you. The things you never confess will preserve you. And the mystery you maintain around the deepest parts of yourself, your goals, your fears, your plans, your wounds, your beliefs, that mystery is not emptiness. It is power. Know the game, play it wisely, and never give anyone more than they need to see.